like Nebuchadnezzar, great king. He is going to come out of Europe. The people of the prince that shall come, according to Daniel 9:24-27, will destroy the city and the temple. Well, there's a Roman conflagration that did it. He will come from the ancient revived Roman Empire somewhere from Europe, and of course that's where the power will be in that day. That's coming, yeah. And so, and that's a fascinating subject. We get on that. When I give a talk, just as an aside, on the final Antichrist, there's so many interesting questions there. But I've got to talk, actually, it's a whole different on that, comparing the qualities of Jesus Christ and the Antichrist, because Jesus shows us what we're to be like, Antichrist what we're not to be like. I want to know exactly what I'm not to be like, so I know what I can be like. And so you've got the contrast there, but it's fascinating. It's subject to study, but yeah, he's definitely going to be European. Mm-hmm.
After the resurrection of Jesus, the Bible says that dead people came forth from their graves and walked the earth. Who were these people and where did they go? Did they eventually return to their graves or ascend into heaven?
Yeah, great question. Unique to Matthew's gospel is what he says in chapter 27, around verse 51, 52. 26, not 27. Is it 26, 51, 52? Anyway, 26, I believe. There's, when Christ dies on the cross, the graves are open, the rocks are split, and certain people come out of the tombs, appear to people after his resurrection. All right, unique to Matthew, and it's interesting Matthew only records that because Matthew written to the Jews about the resurrection that will happen when the Messiah comes. Who they were, we don't know. How many, we don't know. Some of the dead, so not all of the dead. And again, people have speculated. Some of the early church fathers speculated to be like Adam. They named about 3 or 4. We don't know. We're not told. Okay, so the answer is we're not told. It's one of these miracles in Scripture that happened with respect to the cross that we're told just the bare bones of that, and only by Matthew, and that's it. And so we know that certain people who were in the graves came up from the graves. They appeared to many in the city of Jerusalem. Now, what happened to them afterwards? We are not told, and so we can speculate, but your speculation is as good as mine. If we don't know, we simply don't know. By the way, as a total aside to that, let me just take a minute or 2 minutes to tell you about a real exciting project I may be involved on. Stephen Austin, who many of you may be aware of, is a world-class geologist. He has done quite a bit of study with earthquakes. He's an expert on that, the Dead Sea, Israel, the Middle East. He has a theory, and he thinks it can prove it. He says, first of all, the Dead Sea has basically 4,000 years of history have been contained in the Dead Sea and the various layers there, documenting what's happened. In 65 BC, there was a tremendous earthquake that happened that's been recorded by Flavius Josephus, Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. There is the remnants of that. We know exactly when that happened. When Jesus died in AD 33, another earthquake happened. The rocks split. Steve figures to be about a 5.5 earthquake. It would have registered in the Dead Sea. And so what he wants to do is go over there and do some measurements and see, because at the 65 BC, there's a definite, the evidence there in the layers where something happened, that there was an event that happened that was an anomaly. And again, we know that was the earthquake of 65 BC. And he thinks he can find evidence, empirical evidence, that there was another anomaly, an earthquake happened, give or take 5 years, the year AD 33, when Christ was crucified on the cross, the rocks split, which will show physically the miracle that happened at the time Jesus died on the cross, where the earthquakes, the rocks split, the people came out of the graves. That would have been recorded. The Dead Sea would have been strong enough to be recorded at the Dead Sea. He believes he can find and record scientifically, empirically, where that evidence is there in the different layers of the Dead Sea. Now, isn't that exciting? Talk about a great apologetic thing, because there's no other event anywhere around that time that was recorded. They don't have, like, one in every 100 years they have an earthquake there. And right at that time, right at that moment, I mean, come on, that would be another great apologetic evidence. So I may be going over with them. Last time we talked, it would be January if we do that, but exciting thought, isn't it?
Very exciting.
Yeah, exciting.
Very
so
cool.
Just as an aside, but the whole Matthew one, don't know exactly what happened there.
Okay. I know that we Christians look forward to our new body in heaven. However, I have read that we actually keep our body, but it becomes new and incorruptible. No disease, no aging, etc. In that way we will recognize each other in heaven. Let me add to this.
Sure.
Are you of the school that we leave our bodies behind at the rapture, or is there a metamorphosis? They're
Okay.
transformed. Yeah.
Great question. First of all, you guys are asking really good questions. Every question has been excellent tonight. Written ones and verbal ones. So well taught, and of course, I'm not surprised at this group, but excellent questions and good question. Okay, to answer your question, the Bible teaches, and here's the thing on the resurrection of the dead. How shall the dead be raised? All right. The body that was put in the grave will be raised. I have a whole talk on that when I do the rapture of the church. The one that comes out of the grave will be raised, incorruptible, immortal, forever and ever, in the imperishables. I know the final M there, in the presence of the Lord. The spirit, which is the real us, goes with the Lord. The body goes in the grave. They will be joined at the resurrection of the dead. Yes, there is a continuity. It's the same body, but a changed body, a spiritual body as opposed to a natural body. 1 Corinthians 15, it is sown a natural body, psychikos in the Greek, characterized by the soul, the senses, the nature, old nature. It is raised a spiritual body, a body characterized by the Spirit, pneumatikos, characterized by the Spirit. So it'll be a body, but a spiritual body, a body for the spirit world, a body it's going to be us. It's going to be this body that's going to be made perfect. Everything will be working perfectly in the new body. So there will be that continuity there. So it won't be a different body. It will be the same body, but a perfect new body that we have. And as we mentioned the other day, when we were doing, where was it? Sierra Vista, Arizona, one of our friends there, Dana asked the question. She said, does that mean I'll be a size 4 for all eternity, having a perfect body? And I said, I can't guarantee you that, but I can guarantee you this, it's going to be perfect, and everything about it will be perfect 1,000%, and so there'll be nothing wrong with it. Now, with respect to the question, at the rapture of the church, what happens to the living? They are changed. Their bodies are changed. In other words, we will disappear. We will be here 1 second, and the next second we will be gone. No, this body will be, our body will be changed into a new body. There is, again, the continuity that's there. And how do we know this? Because we're going to have a body likened to Jesus. The same Jesus that was put in the grave was raised from the dead 3 days later. It's not a different body. It's the same body, but a glorified body, same Jesus, but with new properties. The glorified body will have a continuity with this one, but it'll be perfect, and it'll be completely 100%, made for the divine, the next realm. But no, I don't believe there's going to be bodies left behind. I believe we're going to be changed. We're going to disappear. This mortal will put on immortality, and we will be changed. So does that answer everything?
Good. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I want to say that if you didn't get your question asked tonight, please don't get mad at me. Get mad at Don.
Get mad at me, yeah. And, thank you, Jay.
But the other thing we could do is, of course, we'll try to get it answered next week for you. And this is being videotaped and, of course, recorded, so you'll have it if for whatever reason you're unable to attend next week. But I have a plethora of questions there. We'll try to get to as many as we can. But let's go to you now. If anybody else has another question they'd like to ask, just raise your hand.
Back to the live ones, all right.
Yeah.
Hi, good evening, Don. My name is Wally.
Hi, Wally.
Who are the descendants in today's generation, descendants of Cain as well as Lot?
Who are the descendants of Cain? Well, the descendants of Lot, of course, were the Ammonites and the Moabites. There were told that story there after Sodom and Gomorrah, what happened there with the, Lot's daughters thought that there wouldn't be, they would have no way to carry on the name, and so they got their father drunk, and we know the story. Who are they today? What's happened is, and this is interesting, Wally, the question, the different, and this is what's unique about Israel and the distinction among them. Abraham's descendants through Isaac, through Jacob, the patriarchs and that have kept their national identity. They've done DNA tests where it's incredible how something like 88%, because people have argued that we won't get into this whole thing about most of the Jews, they aren't really Jews, but they came from the Tartars and that type of thing, during the quasars or whatever they're called. No, the DNA proves that there is this continuity that's been there. What happened to the other nations? They amalgamized and they lost their national identity, as it were. They're out there amongst, we call them Arabs or whatever, Palestinians, Arabs, or whatever name you want to use, but the identity has been lost. But God promised the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that they wouldn't lose their national identity, and that's the distinction there. And so they're out there, and they're different names, and that, and they're there. Now, what was the other part of the question? Oh, of Cain? The Canaanites were the ones that inherited the land. Yeah, okay, the Canaanites were the ones that inherited the land of Canaan that the Lord told to wipe out. And, of course, we know the story. They weren't all wiped out, were they? So they, of course, amalgamated to some of these other people that were there, and they became, the people in the different tribes in the Middle East. Now, here's the thing. These groups have conquered one another. They've mingled with one another. So the identity there is kind of hard to trace exactly how far it goes back. But what's fascinating is the DNA thing, like 88% with the Jewish population today. It's homogeneous there. They've stayed within their own, race, this racial identity. The others, they've lost the national identity, so they're under different names. Just basically is the answer. Now, what you would need is an anthropologist that was much brighter than I to tell you. They may want to give some specifics on that, but that we do know. They've just been amalgamated, just like we do too. We marry wives from other backgrounds, other countries, other looks and that, and we have kids and they have kids and that, and that's what happened. The Jews kept that national identity, so that's the distinction there, which is very fascinating, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah, I've always liked to answer that question as an Arab, that the Jews would be the purebred German Shepherd. I mean, talking about animals, Arabs are mutts. We're a mixed breed of Moabites, all the ites, all the descendants of the ones that you wish you weren't the descendants of as an Arab. But God's chosen people have maintained their purity in their nationality. So, yeah. Yes, Mike. Let's get Mike here first real quick. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Mike's got the mic. Okay, good.
Yeah, Mike.
Hello, Don.
Hi, Mike.
I listen to you quite often on Pastor's Perspective with Chuck Schmidt. And I have a question, Of course, we're not looking for the Antichrist, because we're looking for Jesus Christ.
Yes, sir.
But I attended a conference with Wahid Shabbat.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, he tends to say that the Antichrist will come out of the Middle East or from like a Muslim nation versus the EU. What is your take on that?
Yeah, the question on, and that's not new. One of the names of the Antichrist is the Assyrian, and there's some good people that have held that in the past. It's always been a minority view. Zane Hodges, who was a great interpreter, argued for that. The Antichrist, would be more, they would put, Israel, that area, as part of the Middle East, part of the old Roman Empire. And basically what they would say is that he's going to come out of there and possibly, and I guess it's theoretically possible, because they're looking for the 12th Imam, the final Mahdi, which his identity, and this is terrible, his identity will be known to the world because he kills Jews and Christians. That's going to be, where his identity is, amongst other things. Yeah, I guess it's theoretically possible. I've heard the arguments there. It's a minority view among Bible teachers and that. And if something is a minority view, there's usually a reason there's a minority view, and there's a number of them. You listen to the arguments, and one of the things JD and I were talking about earlier, Daniel 12 says, in the end times knowledge will increase, and that's knowledge of the book of Daniel, knowledge of how this all come together. So, I guess theoretically it's possible. There's some huge problems, I believe, though, with it. The traditional view, Daniel 9:24 to 27, the old ancient Roman Empire, the Caesars, and that sort of aristocracy type of thing, comes out of that mix. He is a Gentile. The first, and remember, there's two of them. There's two beasts. The first beast is the political leader. The second is a religious leader. The first beast is a Gentile. The second one will probably be a Jew. He's Antichrist in the place. He takes the place of the rightful place of Jesus Christ, who claims to be God.